بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم اجعلنا منهم ومن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم آمين, اللهم آمين, اللهم آمين. I hope inshallah all of y'all really enjoyed your small little vacation, whatever it was. You overslept maybe one day. So I hope inshallah you guys enjoyed. Well, you got married over the weekend, so I don't know how you're saying. Yeah, takbir, right? But I hope you guys really did enjoy your break, inshallah. But we'll continue off where we left off last time. Last time we did a little bit of the first ayah. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. We started off in the first ayah, Surah Alaq. And we took a couple of lessons from there. And we also talked a little bit about some of the benefits from the overview of the surah and stuff like that, and the sabab al-nuzul, the reasons why the surah was sent down. We talked about this last time. Inshallah, today we'll be starting off from the second verse. خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ اقْرَأْ وَرَبُّكَ الْأَكْرَمُ. Right here. خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ اقْرَأْ وَرَبُّكَ الْأَكْرَمُ. Now these two verses are very beautifully connected. Very beautifully connected. And also, I told you guys weeks ago, when we just started the surah, this surah is also very closely connected to the previous surah, Surah Al-Teen, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ. Now, in the previous surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says a very beautiful ayah. He says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. لَقَدْ is a word for emphasizing. Most definitely we have. خَلَقْنَا, created. الْإِنسَانَ, the human being. فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, in the best possible way, the best possible standard. You're number one, you're the peak of the creation. This is not to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could not create something better. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create anything better. So just to clear that up. It's not necessarily that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could not create something better, but He did not. From the things that He created, we are the peak of creation. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. In this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ. He created the mankind from alaq. Now alaq in the Arabic language, it comes from the word alaqa, very obviously, which means to hang. Just like the projector is hanging from the ceiling, this is alaq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have created the human being from this hanging blood clot. Now there's a couple of things to be understood here. The first thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the previous surah, He says, خَلَقْنَا. خَلَقْنَا, we have created. In this surah, He says, خَلَقَ, He created. Now, before we move on, I think it should be clear why the we is used. Why is it plural in the previous surah? It's not that there are multiple people that created. This is a royal we. It's used in many, many other languages as well, not just in Arabic. Now there are proofs that this is to prove that there is still only one God, and this is just a royal we, not a literal we. Firstly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to Himself in different ways, using different pronouns. We have khalaqa, for example, He, right? We have in another place in the Quran, Anta ahkamul hakimin, you, right? We have khalaqna, we created. And so these are the three places. I think there's one more way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to Himself. But essentially the reason why we can know for a fact that the we, whenever we is used, that it's used as a royal we, is that if there was truly more than one God, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would refer to that as plural every single time. You get what I'm saying? So like for example, when you say Anta, ahkamul hakimin, right? You are the most just of people, right? Or just of things, right? You're the most just. We say Anta, you. But if it truly was plural, we would say Antum. Right? So, but there's only one case where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the plural, and this is a royal we. This is, like I said, it's used in many, many languages, not just in Arabic. As a matter of fact, it's even used in English as well. When the Queen of England, makes some ruling or whatever, she says, we declare X, Y, and Z. Like, we declare this, even though it's just her that's declaring it, right? Even it's just her that's saying it, but still she says we. It is a royal we, so I think that should be understood. Moving on to now some of the benefits of that. When you say that I have done something, you're connecting yourself to it. You're associating yourself to it. But when you say this is it or he did this, you're disassociating yourself with it. In the previous surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how amazing the human being is. Like, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. There's no other creation that's better than the human being. And it's very interesting. There's actually a funny story behind this. Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was approached by a man. And this man comes to him and he says, actually before we get to Imam Shafi'i, there's this guy, he got married, and he told his wife, if you are not more beautiful than the moon, I will divorce you. So the sister was like, what? He says, if you're not more beautiful than the moon, I'll divorce you. So whatever, marriage gets done, conducted. I don't know how in the world he didn't see her face, whatever, but it's part of the story. So he sees her face eventually, maybe without makeup for the first time. She wakes up for the first time and she's like, oh my God, right? Or like she farts for the first time. It's like, what? Women do that? But he sees her and he says, oh my God, you are not more beautiful than the moon. So he starts going to different scholars and he starts saying, I told my wife that if you're not more beautiful than the moon, then I'll divorce you. Do I have to divorce my wife now? And he starts going to different scholars, and each of these scholars start saying, listen man, if you don't think she's more beautiful than the moon, then you gotta let her go. I'm sorry, but you said it, so it has to happen. So he keeps going, different scholars, and each one of them keeps saying, you gotta do it. And he comes to one very knowledgeable scholar, and I believe it's Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, and he comes to him and he says, I said this to my wife, do I really have to divorce her? I don't want to, do I really have to? He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Tin, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We have created the human being in the best possible standard, so it's impossible that your wife is lesser than the moon. Your wife is automatically better than the moon just as a human being. And he ended up staying with her wife. Happy story.
That sounds like a happy story.
He was like, yeah, I'm sorry. So cute. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, خَلَقَ. He created. Now, there's something, like I said, very interesting. In the previous surah, he associates himself with the creation. He says, خَلَقْنَا, we have created. I've done this. I created this. And he talks about how amazing the human being is. However, this surah is not talking about the awesomeness of the human being. Rather, it talks about some of the faults of the human being. So this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خَلَقَ. He created. Even though he's still talking about himself, but he talks about himself in the third person. He created the human being, min alaq, from this hanging piece of fluid. Now, how are this ayah and the next ayah connected? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, اقرأ وَرَبُّكَ الْأَكْرَمُ. Now read, and your Lord, and we've covered many times what is the real meaning of Rabb. I would love to ask you guys one last time, but I think we're short on time. So if we have time, I'm going to give you guys a pop quiz, just, once again. But we covered the meanings of Rabb, that it has 6 meanings inside of this one word, and it's a very beautiful word. But he says, اقرأ وَرَبُّكَ الْأَكْرَمُ. Read, and your Lord is Al-Akram, the most noble, in layman terms, the most worthy of respect. This is what Kareem means, someone who is worthy of respect. Now the word karama in the Arabic language, it's not just any type of respect. This word is specifically used when something in its essence, something innately is deserving of respect. Human beings, we feel like we deserve respect just because we're human beings. If someone's mistreating you, if someone's treating you badly or whatever, you say, don't treat me like an animal. Treat me like a human being. We say this all the time, right? If someone's, don't treat them like animals. They're human beings, as if we are deserving of this respect as human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right here, he calls himself Al-Akram, and he calls us Alaq, min Alaq, but he calls himself Al-Akram. Al-Akram, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referring to himself. Read, and your Lord is the most deserving of respect, and not just any type of respect, respect for because he did something. Rather, he has this respect innately. From his essence, he is deserving of respect. Does that kind of make sense? Right? That from his essence, him himself is just respect worthy. Okay? Rather, the human being, on the other hand, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he created the human being from this hanging blood clot. Now, we like to say, like I said, we like to say that we are deserving of respect. We are human beings, we have this intellect, we have this mind, we're superior, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the previous surah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in this surah, listen, you may deserve some amount of respect based on what you do. If you're the dean of the university, you call for some level of respect, from amongst the students. But innately, from your essence, you are not deserving of respect. We are all created from this disgusting fluid. Every single human being, whether we like it or not, you come from this. You guys just, everyone's grinning here. It's true, it's reality. We're created from this disgusting fluid. And it's not that, some people think it's nasty, some people don't think it's nasty. Nobody likes this fluid, alright? Now, I don't think I have to explain myself any further, right? You guys know what this fluid is, right? You guys are adults. You guys know how babies work? Yes? Okay, good. But nobody likes this. It's something that's, disgusting. If I was giving this example yesterday at the masjid. We were talking about something else, but this same thing came up. And subhanAllah, even grown adults are just sitting there grinning. But the reality is, if this happens, right? If you get the fluid on you, if whatever, you wake up, right, and there's fluid that has been released, you wash right away. You do. You go wash your hands, you go wash your body, you take a shower, you wash, because it's disgusting, it's nasty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminding us that this is what you're created from. Yes, sometimes you may, call for some respect amongst your peers, amongst this and that, but innately you are not deserving of any respect. From your essence, you're created from something that's disgusting. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the other hand, is the most noble and is the most deserving of respect innately from his essence. From his essence is deserving of respect. This is one of the things. Next thing is, like we said, khalaqa and khalaqna. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now you start to understand, right? The previous surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the amazingness of the creation. So he says, khalaqna, we have created, creating this closeness. But here he says, khalaqa, the third person, disassociating himself. He still says, I'm the one who did it. I'm the one who created. But remember, because of your filth, it's not deserving of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be close to them. It's very interesting. Just the lugha, the language of the Quran. Now, another question that arises is, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeat himself? Why does he say iqra for a second time? Why does he say read for a second time? Now, the majority of the scholars are of the opinion that the reason of this is, when you want to calm someone down and you repeat yourself, right? One of my teachers, he gives the example, if you're in a fight with someone, right, and your friend is telling you to back off, you don't just say back off one time and your friend's like, oh yeah, sit down and let's have a cup of tea or something, right? Like, it's not what happens. Like, back off, calm down, calm down. Right? You're repeating yourself because you're trying to make a point. When you're trying to, relax someone, when you're trying to encourage someone, you repeat yourself. Likewise here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he starts off the surah by saying iqra. And who is he talking to? He's talking to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, at the instance of the revelation. Obviously, the commandment then spreads to all of us, right? But at the time of revelation, it's talking to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we all know the very, very famous story. We all learn it when we're children. When Jibreel alayhi salam, he comes to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he squeezes him. And he says, iqra, read. And then the Prophet Muhammad says, he didn't let me go until I felt like I was going to die. He lost all of his energy, extremely weak, just physically exhausted. And he lets him go. And Jibreel says, iqra, read. And the Prophet says, ma ana biqari. I don't know how to read. And he comes up and he squeezes him again. And again, we're talking about like an angel here, right? We're not talking about like some huge dude or whatever. This is an angel. Well, the Prophet Muhammad, he describes Jibreel as when Jibreel entered his true form, he looked as far as he could to the right and as far as he could to the left. and he couldn't see the end of Jibreel. His feet were on the ground and his head was in the skies. Like think about how huge that is. If you've ever walked, in front of a skyscraper, you feel like such an ant, right? Now imagine the angel Jibreel is bigger than that and much, much larger. Like he's taking up everything. The Prophet said he looked up and all he could see was Jibreel. There was nothing else. Imagine how small you have to be. Now this Jibreel is squeezing the Prophet Muhammad, right? He said, "Iqra, read. Ma ana biqari." I know how to read. So then the surah starts, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq." And we talked about this before. Read in the name of your Lord. And you can imagine all of this that's going on. This is not like your average Sunday morning. You know what I'm saying? Like the angel Jibreel doesn't just show up every Sunday morning. It's like, hey, do something that you never did in your life. It's just not it, right? And this whole experience is unfathomable. It's not normal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is comforting the Prophet Muhammad. "Iqra wa rabbukal akram." Read, again, repeating himself again. It's okay, just read in the name of your Lord. This is one benefit of this. Second benefit of this is something that we mentioned before. Sometimes, especially if you're ever in a place where you're doing some sort of da'wah, some sort of calling to Islam, which we all are in whatever shape or form that we do it. Some do it by standing at a booth. Some do it by having good character, good manners. You'll be surprised how far good manners go. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as he did in the first verse, when you are reading, when you are preaching this Quran, remember one thing. You are not doing this from your own words. And you're not doing this from your own will. You're doing this because Allah says so. And remember that you're not expecting people to listen to you. It's not about us. It's not. When you're preaching Islam, when you're doing any form of da'wah, it's not about us. It's about the message itself. A couple surahs later in Surah Al-Bayyinah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and inshallah one day we'll go through Surah Al-Bayyinah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in that surah, وَمَا تَفَرَّقُوا إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُم. That they did not split up into these groups. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the Jews and the Christians. They did not separate into groups and different fractions, except until they received knowledge. When they had this information, when they had this knowledge, that's what made them split up. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlighting here some of the arrogance that happens sometimes. As we know, it's very clear. And again, when I say this, I'm not bashing any people. I'm bashing, or I'm speaking ill of people who may be messed up with the Bible. They're the one who changed the Bible. Christians nowadays have no idea what's going on. They don't know who changed it and who didn't change it. And it's not their fault. I mean, some of us, most of us here, grew up as Muslims. So all we know is Islam. When someone asks us, why are we Muslim? I don't know, it's just cause. Right? Inshallah, this class changes that we have our Islam because we believe it's the truth. But the idea is Christians nowadays are Christian because that's how they grew up. They believe it's the truth. So now, when this knowledge came down and they split up into these groups because of pride, because they weren't able to humble themselves. They weren't able to say that it's okay that I don't know. Or when the messenger became more important than the message. You understand? When I come here, it's not about me. Right? I'm giving myself as an example, not because I'm better by any means, but because it's something that you can relate to right now at this very moment. When I come here, it's not about me. It's not about what I look like. It's not about, what I'm saying. The message is what's important. The fact that these are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this surah, in this specific verse. Remember, you are reading the name of your Lord. It's not about you and what you are preaching. Lord, it's not you. Rather, this is the message. You are preaching the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now when someone disrespects you, it's okay. Because it's not about you. It's about the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you're worried that, why would someone listen to me? I'm nobody, I'm nothing. Why would someone listen to me? Remember, it's not about you. They're not listening to you. You guys right now sitting in this class are not listening to me. Listen to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we're reading through. We're reading through the words of Allah. This is why it's impactful. This is why it's has a good message. It's not my message. It's the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Prophet here in this third verse. And like we said, how is the previous verse connected to this one? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here highlights how He is Al-Akram, the one deserving of respect innately from His essence. And how the human being, yes, maybe sometime throughout our life, we may, call for some little amount of respect from X group of people, but not everyone is going to respect you. That's because innately we are not deserving of respect to come from this disgusting group. These are the first 3 verses of Surah Al-Alaq. And inshallah, I think we're going to briefly go over the next few and talk about how they're connected and then end it. In the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِي عَلَّمَ بِالْقَلَمِ عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. Now these first 5 verses that we are just about to finish, the next 2 verses and the 3 that we've already done, this is the first revelation that came down to the Prophet Muhammad. It ended here. If you are unaware, now you know. The Quran was not sent down surah by surah. It was not sent down chapter by chapter. Rather, there were specific verses that came down at certain times that were separated throughout the course of 23 years in accordance to any situation that came, that was occurring at the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That's when the verses came down to talk about this certain situation. Now, how was the Quran then eventually put the way we have it now? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would read to the angel Jibreel alayhi salam, and Jibreel would tell him, okay, this verse, it goes right here. This verse that I just revealed is part of this surah, and this and that. Likewise, or just like that, the entire Quran was put into order. It's not something that just kind of like magically happened. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next 2 verses, He says, الَّذِي عَلَّمَ بِالْقَلَمِ, the one who taught by means of the pen, عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ, He taught the human being that which the human being could never know on his own. There is no way that we would know that angels exist if it wasn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No way. Not us, not Jews, not Christians, not this, not that. There is no way at all that anyone on the face of this earth at any time would know that angels existed unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us. This whole, everything, it all originates from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is information that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And other things. We wouldn't know that there's a such thing as 7 skies if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us. Right? The limit of the human being is the first sky. We cannot go past this in this world. So the fact that we believe that there are more skies, more universes, right? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. This is one thing. But the one thing that I wanted to share with you guys before I conclude today, inshallah, it's beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the word iqra, read, twice. And then He uses the word allama, teach, twice as well. I'm pretty sure some of you have heard the hadith before. خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَ. The best amongst you are those who learn the Qur'an and then now teach it to others. Convey this message. Now you start to learn why. One of the jobs of the human being is to learn and then to teach. That you don't just receive this information and you keep it for yourself. Rather, you go and you teach it, further. And now, why does something like teaching have such a huge reward, whatever it may be? As we know that the Prophet Muhammad he explains to us that every single time that someone does something good because of something that you taught them, you get the reward for that. You get the reward for that. So now let's say, for example, you teach your younger sibling how to read Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, right? You just teach them how to read Surah Al-Fatiha. Or you teach your kids how to read Surah Al-Fatiha. Every single time they read Surah Al-Fatiha in their entire life, you get the reward for that. Amazing. Amazing. And we learn why right here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He teaches us that one of the sunnahs of Allah, one of the the habits, one of the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does things, is that He teaches. And what the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad was to learn and to teach. So now by teaching, by learning and teaching, not only are you following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, not only are you following the way the Prophet Muhammad did things, by learning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and teaching to others, not only are you doing the same exact thing, but you're also following a sunnah of Allah. So something that Allah Himself did was to teach. So now you understand the greatness of the reward. There is one other action that us as human beings can do that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does Himself as well. As you guys most definitely have heard in a khutbah, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. Inna, what does inna mean? You guys need to tell me. You guys should be learning from it, right? Huh?
Indeed we.
Indeed. Indeed, there's no we. We is from somewhere else. That will be inna if it was we, right? Inna means indeed. But I want you guys to explain it to me even more than that, because we've covered this a couple of times. And I don't want you to answer, because I feel like you already know this. What does inna mean? Someone raise your hand. If you do not raise your hand, I will call on you. Sister in the red scarf, what does inna mean? I was not joking.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. See, why did you just raise your hand? Good, this is good. You guys are learning, mashallah. You guys are starting to learn some of the, the Arabic and some of the benefit of the words in this. Inna means without a doubt, most definitely. It's a letter or a word in the Arabic language that is used to emphasize a point. So inna. Allah says, inna Allah. Allah. Very simple. Wa means and. Inna Allah wa, most definitely Allah, and malaikatahu, His angels. Yusalluna, they send peace and blessings and prayers ala nabi, on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe, sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Send prayers and salutations to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the second thing that us as human beings can do, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does Himself as well. And now you understand why it's such a great reward. Not only are we doing something that the Prophet Muhammad did, but we also have the ability to do something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself did. Obviously at way different capacities. Right? We're talking about God here. Very different capacities, but still you can try. Still you can try to do your best. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Iqra twice, He says Allama twice. Read, learn, teach. Teaching, there's a huge reward in teaching. And don't think that whatever time you spend with maybe your younger siblings or family members or younger people in the community, mashallah, you guys are role models for some of the other people in the community. Head over to somewhere like Center Masjid or South Masjid or MIC, you guys come by. But there's kids running around, playing around, talk to them. When you were a teenager, some of you may still be teenagers, but when you were younger, you went through a time of doubt, you went through hardships, you went through confusion, you're not sure what to do with your life, you don't know, it's called high school, right? But it's called high school. These kids are going through the same thing. This is now our job, that we learn not just this, we learn from experience, we learn from life, and now you teach it to others, so that people don't have to make the same mistakes that we did. We all made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. That's okay. The Prophet Muhammad he explains to us that the favorite servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who makes mistakes and then turns back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who constantly repeats his mistakes and then constantly turns back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't think that the doors of Allah are shut. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves it when we make mistakes and we turn back to Him. So He didn't create us a perfect human being. He created us people that will make mistakes. It's in our nature. But remember, when you make a mistake, I'll turn back to those people. Anyways, the point is, read, learn, teach. And one last thing, and this is definitely the most important thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, read and learn before He says teach. He says, read and learn before He says teach. Do not just pull things out of a hat. This is how you will get misguided, and this is how you will misguide others. This is a big problem. Even some major scholars, well, not major scholars, but what were considered to be major scholars of their times, they made the same mistake. Where sometimes some scholars would say, and obviously there's a whole science behind this, right? So don't think that this was something that didn't go unnoticed, right? But there were some people who called themselves scholars, and actually the real scholars of Islam call them storytellers. But what they would do is, sometimes they would make up stuff to bring people to Islam. They would say something like, read Surah Yasin 1,000 times and you're promised paradise. Something like that, right? I'm not saying that's it, but sometimes they'll say something like that. To get people to read the Quran. The intention was good, but there's no basis of this. If we're going to teach something, teach the Quran. Right? Teach something that comes from the Quran. Teach the Sunnah, the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the actions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Something that's in our religion. Don't just pull something out of a hat. This is something that's very, very, very important. Yes, it's important to teach, but don't just go around teaching whatever. Learn first. Learn first. Do some research. One of the places where I go to, even till this day that I still do my research, first I will read many books of tafsir. Before I come here, I'll read through tons of books of tafsir. And I'll read the opinions of different scholars and this and that. But after that, when I'm done reading my tafsir, I'll listen to the lectures of Ustad Nu'man, one of my teachers, my Arabic teacher actually. I'll listen to his lecture, and they're free at bayina.com. Of what does he say about this? What maybe he saw some research, or maybe he read some book that I didn't come across. The point is, read, learn, humble yourself. It's okay to say I don't know. It's okay. One of the brothers, he came up to me yesterday. No, not yesterday. Last week, today, last Wednesday after the lecture, and he said, what's a good tafsir? He asked me about a good tafsir. What's a good book to read about the explanation of the Quran? And I said, there's many great tafsir. I can't just recommend just one. Every book kind of has its own, beauty to it. Has its own way of, coming about a certain topic. And he says the reason why I ask you this is because now some people, they see me as a Muslim, and this happens to the sisters much more than it does to the brothers. And they'll see me that I'm Muslim, and they'll ask me about a question that I don't know how to answer. I don't know the real answer behind it. Then what do you say? It's very simple. You go to the Quran, and then you say, I don't know. You just say, I don't know. If you don't know it, then don't know. You don't know, that's fine. If you have a question, you feel free to come to me at any time. You go to one of the other Imams in the area, you go to any other scholar, it's fine. But if we don't know, we don't know. Cut and dry. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the greatest scholars that humanity has ever seen, especially one of the greatest scholars of the Muslim era. He was the mufti, the person, the head scholar of the city of Medina. And we're not talking about Medina nowadays. We're talking Medina shortly after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. We're talking about some of the greatest people, the people that the Prophet Muhammad himself said, that the best nations that will ever come are mine, the one after, and the one after. Right? That's why the Sahaba are so revered. And it's not because they were better human beings, but they had access to more things than we have access to. Obviously, someone who gets to spend time with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has a much better chance of learning something and bettering himself than someone who spends time with him. Anyways, the point being, learn, read, gather information, and then teach. And if you don't know, that's fine. If you say, I don't know, as a matter of fact, people will trust you more. Because then when you come to them with an answer, they'll know that you didn't just pull that out of the hat. That you actually researched the situation, you asked about this, and then you give them an answer. Sometimes we think when we say I don't know, it makes us look dumb. It doesn't. It makes you look smarter, and it gives you more trust. Because if you're willing to say I don't know, then when you come with an actual answer, they're more likely to believe you. Because you didn't know then, you know now. So you obviously did some research, you did some learning. This is just one thing that I want to share with you from these next two verses. Inshallah, next week we'll go into a little bit more detail about الَّذِي عَلَّمَ بِالْقَلَمِ and عَلَمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. There's one last thing that's very beautiful to learn from these things, and it's what makes the human being better than everyone else, or everything else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it in these two verses. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to act upon everything that has been said and act upon everything that has been heard. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask away. بارك الله لي ولكم في الحكيم ونفعني بكم الحكيم. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.